Good morning. What's going on? As you know, my name is Delanco Dylan. So basically, as you could tell from my previous videos, I own businesses, and things of that nature. So in this video, what I wanted to do was basically get into business, startup, different types of businesses, different types of investments, and things of that nature. So basically, um, the businesses that I owned, one was an Amazon partnership. So a lot of people are interested in Amazon partnerships or how they could get started in e-commerce or reselling, um, how to start their own store, different things like that. And then I also have a online clothing store, but also a brick and mortar, like regular clothing store, storefront, amongst other businesses. So like any business, you gotta have like the business essentials. So when your kids go to school or back when you were going to school, you have the basic stuff. Like something that really helps me with business management is simple notepad. So if you have like a BlackBerry, my favorite is to use the BlackBerry because it has a keypad, which makes it very easy to send emails, to type in things, or something with a pen. So those phones or tablets that have the pen, and you could write down whatever you need to or quickly jot down things. But it's about the speed, the efficiency. You don't want to be on your phone all day struggling with the screen trying to swipe, and it's not going. You got to unlock your phone, do this and that, and then you're just scrolling around adjusting the brightness, this and that, right? Whereas you could just type, because the keypad is an exterior keypad. It's not in your phone screen. It's just like a laptop. It's right there. Also a laptop, um, things of that nature. I might make a checklist where you could just go down the checklist for business startup, business essentials, and I'll put it as a free downloadable checklist, just to help things move along easier, get things started, get the ball. How I got into businesses is that when I was younger, I had a lot of mentors, and these mentors were all business owners. They were all registered business owners, insured, bonded, um, tax accounts, business accounts, everything, right? Everything a business should have, legitimate businesses. So some of these businesses were like convenience store, real estate, the automotive industry, fashion, music, entertainment, um, education, like a private school, tutoring, things of that nature, landscaping, property maintenance, property management, and the list goes on. A lot of businesses. Personally, for me, what worked out for me, so when I was like 12, 13, what I would do is go around, shovel snow, deliver newspapers, things of that nature. So as I got older, I realized that's more labor intensive. So the older I got, when I was like 15, 16, I started looking at other options rather than running around delivering newspapers and shoveling snow all day. What else could I do to earn money? Because I was still too young to get a job, right? So when you're like 15, I think nowadays you could apply for a job, but back then, you had to be a bit older, or at least 16. So the minimum age was 16 to apply for a job. So at like 15, I started getting into different businesses. Uh, so some of the businesses that I got into was the automotive industry, um, fashion, uh, retail, convenience stores, grocery store, supply chain and supply chain management and logistics. Um, and that's what I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there was other things that I'm just not thinking about right now. Well, what I did was I had mentors. So the first thing I did was sit there and listen and just taking the paperwork associated with the business. So me being young and it being my first time owning businesses, 16, 17 years old at that point, moving forward. was basically, oh sorry, and also main business was ACN, which is a telecommunications uh telecommunications company that was based, I believe, in North America, but it was international service. So pretty much that taught me a lot as far as appearance, presentation, networking, meetings, things of that nature. Because ACN, you would have to attend meetings regularly, almost weekly. There was a team element, so you would have a senior. I can't remember the titles. These companies usually have like titles. So let's say like regional director, local, not local, but like, regional director. Then there'll be like a more local director. Then there'll be like a team leader, supervisor, then associates, things of that nature, right? There was a certain structure to it. This was a company that was backed by Donald Trump. There was people that were very wealthy. They had like vacation homes, boats, jets, Rolls Royces, Bentleys, and they would fly in from different parts of North America to have meetings. um, so when I attended these meetings, I was only like 16 years old. 16, maybe, yeah, 16 years old. And when I went to these meetings, I would be sitting next to somebody who just flew in on a private jet that they paid for jet fuel to come from Las Vegas. They left at lunchtime and they came here for supper. They attended this meeting, had a nice supper at one of these nice restaurants, establishments, dining establishments, and then they would leave right back and be home the same day, right? So things like that. And these people, so I got the opportunity to network almost like some of those showcases or expos events. If you look at like the real estate renovation market and stuff like that, where they have the home expo, things like that, right? So that gave me the opportunity, a window to network with different people from different walks of life, real estate agents, investors, financial industry, or financial sector, uh, different people like hospitality and tourism, management, different people from different places. I was probably the youngest person there, 16. Um, so a lot of people took note of that, and they were happy that I was there, that I was willing to participate, that I was listening more than anything, just sitting there listening, and taking advice from these people, allowing them to speak instead of pretending to know it all or being a young, ignorant person. I was there, I was shaking hands, speaking nicely, very, very good demeanor, and a teachable person, a teachable young person, which is what gave me a good start. Because yeah, so because if you have closed ears, you can't really hear anything, right? If it goes in one ear and it goes out the other, there's no point in somebody talking to you. They're not going to waste their time on you, right? If you have a firm handshake, you make good eye contact, you introduce yourself, say hi, how are you, my name is whatever, it's nice to meet you. If you don't mind, I would like to take a few minutes to learn something from you. And the person might give you a wealth of knowledge. Not only that, but become a resourceful contact who you could speak to and have as a mentor. So that's what I learned about that. I'm just gonna jot down things as I go. So like I said, the business startup checklist, uh, for like supplies and other things, just to make your, just even like an office setup. So just to have like a home office or a mobile office, things like that. Or if you're getting a real office and you want to know what to put in there for the first time, like a fax copy printer machine, a computer, a landline phone, because you don't want to rely on your cell phone. If there's a cell phone disruption, a service disruption, then you're gonna be, sitting on your behind waiting until the service comes back up. Whereas, and you might want to go with two different service providers, or like service providers that cater strictly to businesses, like a business plan rather than like a personal cell phone that you use for business, things of that nature. Uh, yeah, mentorship, different things. So I'm gonna jot down things as I go along. All right, so once you have like the basics out of the way, like a business, so like an office and whatever, your supplies and everything else, the next thing is, If you're young, a mentorship would help, or even if you're a new beginner, right? Somebody who's already been in the industry you want to get into, or the sector you want to get into, and they know the ropes. They could teach you a thing or two on and save you from learning learning curves and bumping your head a little bit. But then again, experience is the best teacher. So being that experience is the best teacher, you might want to experience things on your own. You might want to stumble a little bit here, bump your head there, and just learn on your own, because that way you have the experience, right? And you learn that way. But it's also good to have somebody in your corner that you could call and be like, hey, like, I need help. How do I set up my landline? How do you have your VoIP phone set up? Or how do you have like your computer setups to be the most efficient? Because if, let's say for example, if you work at a bank, right, and you just started today, and the manager's been working there for 40 years, right? So at that point, let's say the manager is not a person who's like mean and doesn't look at you like you're a nobody, and they're willing to teach you things, and they see something in you, potential, and they say that maybe you could be a manager one day. So they might be willing to assist you. And what I mean by that is, like, they might be able to tell you, all right, so when I come into work, this is my routine to get started in the morning to be the best and most efficient employee that I can be, right? Like, for example, they open up their blinds to let in some light, so that way their office is not dark. They have their computer screen set at a certain thing, so that way the computer screen brightness does not bother their eyes. They put their personal cell phone on silent, or put it in the cabinet or like in the drawer, so that way they don't get personal calls at work and be distracted until lunch break or whatever, when they could check their phone to do as much work as they can, right? So you want to know how they got to the position that they got to. So how did you become a manager? I would appreciate if you're willing to teach me some things, because I want to go down the same route. It's just like that with anything. So for example, if you want to get into real estate and you just get into real estate and it's your first day, so you might not know that there's certain quotas you have to keep up with to keep your license, right? As a realtor, if you want to expand and open your own realtor company, there's certain things you have to do. There's certain things you have to, requirements that you have to meet. So if you talk to somebody that's already there and they've successfully been running their own firm, or whatever you call it, like a company, real estate company, for about 10 years, and that they're doing something right year after year, right? So the numbers and how long they've been there is a telltale sign of success. So if you see like a garage or an auto dealership that's been there for 10 years, that they're doing something right. Their customers are satisfied, and they're not being shut down by the government. They're not being sued and going bankrupt and closing. They're doing something properly, right? So they're doing something correctly. You could learn a thing or two from them. So a main thing that I notice in businesses is an office space or a workspace with no distractions, right? So even if you work at home, for example, there's a lot of work at home opportunities, right? Like call takers, order takers, for example, like the shopping channel that's based online. Any place like a restaurant, like pizza, things like that, where you call in, those people, most of them are remote agents that work from home. And you could proofread, you could do other things, right? There's a lot of online jobs. So even then, you need a quiet, private place. You got to have the appropriate headset. You got to have a working computer with a certain speed. You even have to register yourself as an independent contractor. So now you are a business owner, because you thought it was a job. You applied, you got the job. Guess what? Now you have to pay your own taxes, because you're your own boss, right? You work from home. So once you get the job, you have to pay your own taxes. It would be good if you set up a business account to put the money into it rather than your personal account. And then you gotta, register, whatever, do all your stuff, sign this independent contractor paperwork, things of that nature. But the other important thing is not only the paperwork, but also a quiet, clean space to work in, right? So whether you're working from home or you got an office, right, or you even use a shared office space, workspace, which is another option, right? So that's something you got to look at. So now, once you open a business, So even like a car wash, right? You're gonna find an office in the car wash where the owner of the car wash sits there and does his taxes, his finances, his legal stuff, his registration, his advertising, his employee scheduling, payroll, human resources, all that stuff happens in the office. Um, if you go to a gas station, same thing in the back. There's going to be an office. You go to a strip club in the back, there's an office. Not to be a mature audience, but just to give you an example, you go to the grocery store. Guess where the manager is? In the back office. Guess where the owner is? The back office. Anywhere you go, there's going to be an office. So for things like that. So here's an option, right? So me, when I was looking for offices, I looked at the location, right? So I wanted a place where, like, I would obviously have something to eat because I'm not always going to be able to bring my coffee or my smoothie or my water and my food and snacks for the day, right? Sometimes I might be in a rush. Who knows, right? We don't know the situation. So if you have kids, for example, you might be in a rush getting your kids ready, dropping them off at school. If you got somebody else to take care of, a family member or a friend, you got to do that. If you have pets, you might have to run out and take them for a walk before you go to work or before you go to your office. And guess what? At that time, you may not have time to even stop at a coffee store and get a quick coffee in the drive-through because the drive-through line might be wrapped around the building, right? So if things like that happen, that's what I looked at. So one thing I looked at was the location and what was around me, like walking distance. So I would look for like coffee stores or grocery stores, something essential where I could get water if I need to. I could get, food, snacks if I need to. Get some coffee, a beverage, whatever it is. Or if I had somebody over, like even my clients, my customers, once they come, right? If they got a coffee store right across the street, guess what? They don't have to stop anywhere else to get food or stuff and then be like, hey, you know what? I can't make it to the meeting because now I'm running late. I got to go do something else. Because guess what? You could do two in one right there, right? So you're kind of problem solving already and practicing customer relations, customer service skills just by thinking ahead, right? So even before you get your office location or your store location, just doing that alone, because they could do two in one, right? So they might even be able to pick up something for whoever, right? You get what I'm saying? Like not just themselves. They could complete other tasks like grocery shopping, getting food quickly, There might even be a pet grooming salon somewhere nearby where they could drop off their pet, come have a meeting with me, pick up their pet, then go get a coffee, get some food, and then boom, they go home and they got 4 tasks done in one. And guess what? That's because of my planning, right? So basically, that's one thing. The second thing is, so once you look at a location and you like your location, you gotta see if so like what is the other businesses there like. So for example, if you have maybe like an accounting office, right? It would make sense if there was like a check cashing place there, a bank nearby, if there was other business consultations or travel companies, places like that where people might be able to step in and be like, hey, you know what, you're kind of more convenient for me. I want to do my taxes here. I want to do whatever, your accounting, right? My payroll, my admin, whatever, right? And things of that nature. And I say this because I worked at an accounting firm, and I noticed that when I looked around the rest of the floor there was 2 check cashing places right there. There was an international currency exchange right there. There was a bank just across the street. There was other offices that so once you're a business owner, the thing is you're gonna need to do your taxes and do your business registration. Keep up with your business registration, right? So every single business in that plaza has to pay taxes and keep their business licenses and business registration updated and current, right? So guess what? That's very good business because just in that plaza alone, you could get a lot of business because they're all gonna come to you because they walk past you every day, right? And they see you, they say hello anyway to you. Things of that nature, right? You walk past each other in the hall. So things like that. But the important thing is, so the next thing is that once you get these places, you gotta call, or send an email, schedule a viewing, just like buying real estate, right? And then you gotta look at the price range. Like, get something that you could afford. Don't try to go for an all-out executive $5 million office, right? Even if you cannot afford an office for $400 a month, try to get a shared workspace. So that way your meetings are professional. If you're on Skype, if you're on, if you're making a seminar, a web seminar, if you're doing consultations through the camera or you're in person, you have a solid table to sit down at. There's other people running businesses, right? So it's not a shady place. Your customers feel safe, your clients feel safe, you feel safe because you have access to a secure building. So things like your laptop, because a lot of people have Apple MacBook Pros, iPhones, you know, expensive cameras. Um, they may even have credit cards and cash on them, depending on what type of business, right? So you want to be in a secure building. That's the first thing. Somewhere where you're safe. You know, sometimes you have to work late and you leave at like 2, 3 a.m. If there's a coffee shop right there in the plaza, and the coffee shop's open 24 hours a day, guess what? When you come outside, there's a bunch of traffic right there and a bunch of people who could see you, and if nobody would want to do anything to you. Whereas if you're in a plaza that closes at about 8 p.m. and then there's nothing around you whatsoever, almost like an industrial area, and you work till like 3 and you come outside and it's dark and you're the only car parked there, you may be a target of crime, right? You gotta think about things like that. So besides that, it's like the office essentials, what to have in your office, right? So just like a home, you're gonna want to have like a fire extinguisher, you know, a first aid kit, things like that. Yeah. So back to what I was saying. So basically, when you call and you go around or you email and then you schedule these viewings and you go from place to place and you view these offices, it's not so much about the view and like things like that. Like I said, it's about security, efficiency for your clients and customers. Um, you know, the proximity to other things that could assist you. Like I said, maybe even security in the building, things like that. A clean space. You know, like the washroom in your office is maintained and cleaned by the property manager. You don't want to place like that's one thing you should do. So once you're viewing your property in your office or a rental office, whatever, you want to go check the washroom in there and see if the washroom is clean, if it smells nice, you know, stuff like that. Is it regularly maintained? You may even want to inquire with the property manager, hey, are there any other offices available here? Because sometimes these plazas, they have multiple offices in the same office space, right? So in the same building. So they'll have like, depending on the size you want, you know, some may be small, some may be bigger, depending on what you need. So like a small office, you know, is good for just like a self-employed person who doesn't have too much stuff, right? Because you got to take in account like maybe filing cabinets. So like because some businesses, although you could store everything on your laptop, right? Some people like, so let's say for example an accounting firm, um, they would want to have hard copies of everything, right? These papers. So what they do is keep a filing cabinet, things of that nature, because if or let's say if there's a flood or fire in your office building, guess what? You have a hard copy on your computer or a hard drive or USB or on your Google Cloud. I mean, yeah, cloud, your OneDrive, whatever, right? An exterior digital copy. But also you have a hard copy. So let's say something happens to your digital copy, you got a hard copy on hand, right? Things like that. And even your business documents, right? So your business registrations, your taxes, your business account stuff, things like that, right? So all right, so basically I'm gonna move on to the types of offices, right? So you got your home office, right? One is a home office. The second one is a shared workspace office, right? Shared workspace. And the other one is like a actual office. Um, so yeah, there's different benefits to each of these, right? All right, so for example, a home office, you know, it's good, it's comfortable. You can walk around in your pajamas, and you know, you have your kitchen right there, you have your washroom right there. You could basically sit there, have meetings, do whatever, you know, have consultations, video calls, do some paperwork, you know. But sometimes your home office might get noisy. You can't really bring too many people to your home, because it's not even about, you could bring them to your home, but it's about professionalism, right? You kind of want to have a professional office where they could come to, um, and your kid's not throwing banana pudding at their face while they're leaving, and there you go, you just lost a customer, a client. Your dog might jump on them, and now their nice clothes are all stuck with fur. They got to get a lint roller and roll off all the pet fur, things like that. Um, hmm. So yeah, a home office is always good, just for your personal stuff, like personal. Keep your personal documents there. Uh, it's more comfortable to obviously do like extra work. So once you go home and somebody calls you, you don't have to drive back to your office. You have everything right there, right? It's good as a backup. It's good as like once you have a day off, and you just want to do some extra work from home, maybe type some stuff out or just check up and make sure everything's good. It's good to have a home office for those type of person. You could obviously work from home and make it work for yourself. You could close the door and have like a quiet office where you're not interrupted and you could actually get some work done. Um, so yeah, definitely having a home office is a good idea, just for personal stuff and for business purposes. But as far as like maybe hosting clients in person, things of that nature, you kind of want to have a shared office space, or a actual office. So like I said, the thing about a shared office space is that there's other people there, so it's a great networking opportunity. You can meet other people that got something going on just like you do. The other thing is like the space is cleaned and maintained, sanitized by the company that does it. It's just like Airbnb, but with offices. The other thing is, so they have equipment and resources and tools, right? They have like the projectors, they have tables, like I mentioned, with the chairs, and it has a real executive feel to it, right? You feel like uh, you're on the top floor of like a large office in the downtown of your city, because these offices are so nicely furnished and equipped with all these things, right? They got the phones, they got the presentation rooms, the meeting rooms, they got snacks and coffee, they got washrooms, they got everything that you need. Private building, possibly security in the building, things of that nature. That's the benefits of a shared office space. So the other thing is, uh, actual office, like I mentioned. So I was talking about the actual office earlier when I said like if you have a coffee shop in the plaza, you got to look at the location, because when you come out at like 3 a.m. after working late, you don't want to be the only car in the parking lot in a desolate place where there's nobody around for miles, right? That's kind of a bit creepy. So you kind of want to be on like a street where there's at least some type of traffic, you know, especially maybe if you're a woman, not to single out women or be gender based, but you could figure out why. Um, or if you have a business that deals with cash or like important documents, or even if you work a business like being a lawyer, right? So let's say for example a civil lawyer, a litigation lawyer, or criminal lawyer. Actually, I'm going to stick with civil litigation, right? Civil litigation. You might become a target because you're doing lawsuits, right, against different companies, different people. So these people might come and try to break the window on your vehicle or break the window of your business or even vandalize it, spray paint it, things like that, right? So for that purpose, like even thinking about ground floor office versus a office on the second floor, or in a building with elevators, just for added safety features like I mentioned earlier, right, with the shared office space. But also in your own office, not even a shared office space, but if you get a office in like an office building, um or a plaza where there's multiple levels, right, 2 3 floors, so you have to enter the building, go up, and then you're on the second floor or the third floor where you're safe and your windows can't be broken. And to get into the building, they're going to need a set of keys, right? And if they don't need a set of keys, you got your office door dividing you from the hallway, right? So you're a bit more safe that way. There's cameras everywhere, things like that. as I mentioned, other businesses in the building. You know, so if somebody hears a commotion or an argument, they could come walk by and be like, hey, is everything okay? You know, I'm just checking on you guys because I heard, you know, whatever, da 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 da. If they hear you, you know, they could call police, and you got to take these things into consideration because even though you don't want to think about things like that, it's better to be prepared. You know, like maybe have some pepper spray in your drawer cabinet. Security wise, you know, have a camera system, have a security system where you know you can press a button and it alerts the authorities, things like that. Like I said, it's just like a home, right? You're going to be spending a lot of time there, so you might as well treat it like your home. Have cameras, have a security system, you know, have neighbors that are concerned about you, you know, a high traffic area, things like that. So for example, me, the ideal office that I want is not in an office building because me personally, find that like a small plaza office setting is good for me. As far as like the ground level, it's easy as far as accessibility for people, right? So people who are elderly, you know, injured or in a wheelchair or something like that, it makes sense to be on the first floor. So if you got like, let's say like a medical treatment center, right, it would make sense that you're on the first floor because majority of your customers and clients either have an injury, they're a senior, they're coming out of surgery, they got a, you know, some type of injury, they're in a wheelchair or something. So if you're on the second floor, it wouldn't make too much sense, right? Because it'd be hard for your clients to get there. So being on the ground floor would make a lot of sense. If you have like a moving company, a storage building, it makes sense that you have the loading dock or like the entrance on the first floor, right? Because who would want to go up 5 stories carrying a couch on their back, right? It's easy to just put it on a roller and just roll it in, right? And wherever they're going, things like that. The obvious, right? Stating the obvious, but so when my ideal office would be like either a second floor or first floor office, I would like to have other businesses around me, you know, like people just that are there already, real estate, coffee store, you know, like life insurance, mortgages, banks, even a mall, even a shopping area would be okay because I'm okay with that. That type of stuff. Like I mentioned, you know, the obvious security cameras, like a lock, key and door entry or a card entry. You know, smart system, smart monitoring system for safety purposes. You know, and then the other thing is, you know, you got your supplies, your filing cabinets, your desk, your computer, your phones, and other things, right? Oh yeah, like a copy fax machine, which is important. Like meeting capability, so you want to have extra chairs and space. You don't want to be crammed in the office like this big a closet where where they can't even pull out a chair to sit down. Your clients, right? Your clients can't even pull out the chair because it's hitting the wall, and they're like, "Where am I supposed to sit?" Things like that, right? And it'd be nice too to obviously have like a place where you could do visuals, presentations. So if you have like a board that you could write on, reminder board, things like that, business card. So in my videos from like 2019, you see things like that, obviously, and also like a projector, things of that nature, right? So filing cabinets, projector, like stuff like that. But oh yeah, so back in 2019 or 2016 or 2016, you could see my videos where I had my business cards. So that was my first experience printing out my own business cards. And like I said, so like that was also from a mentor. So at a point, I was doing videography and photography. So pretty much a colleague of mine, a mentor, he gave me a business card and he's like, listen, today I cannot, you know, do anything today because I'm busy. I got other things going on. Here's my business card. Call me or get in touch with me and we're going to schedule a date to do this again. So at that point, that was my first time and I was very young, right? I was like 19, maybe 20 at that time. So like I said, prior to that, my business experience was ACN. And I didn't take too much note to the business cards back then because I was still young. I was only like 16, so I was still a kid in high school. But when I got older, right, and I started doing other businesses, I started realizing that That's the first time I really looked at a business card, held a business card, turned it back and forward, back and front, looked at it, and I'm like, wow, this is really a good tool, right? Because it gives them all your information to contact them. It states your business, things of that nature. So at that point, I really got into business cards. So if I had business cards for various businesses, right? Like auto dealership, I've had business cards for that. My clothing company, I've had business cards for. I've also made flyers and print like that for various businesses. So yeah, flyers and business cards. And that goes into other things like promotional material, right? So like I mentioned, my clothing company, we make, so as you can see from this t-shirt, you see the embroidery right here. This is an embroidered logo. So for example, if I was wearing this, but let's say I had a moving company, right? Let's say Dylan's Moving company. So in embroidery letters, it would say Dylan's Moving Company, right? And it's a professional look, because why? You're wearing a uniform, all your employees. So when you go to somebody's house or somebody's office and you're helping them move, and it's a professional company, so you got to look at, are you insured, bonded, covered and everything, if there's in case of any damages or injuries, stuff like that. But more so than that is that all your employees look the same. So the people going in and out of the office or in and out of the house, they're not just dressed in a regular clothing and some jeans, right? And they're just walking around your house and you don't know who's who, right? Rather than that, everybody that enters your home has a uniform and a cap on that says moving company, right? So when you look, if there's 4 employees walking around your home, you're like, hey, look, 1, 2, 3, 4 employees all wearing the same shirt, the same cap, and I know these guys all work at this company, So it gives you a peace of mind, but it's also professional on the part of that business, right? So that's the importance. So business cards, like logo, things of that nature, flyers. I've done all this stuff, right? Flyers, printing, distribution, door to door, going, giving out flyers, leaving it on cars in the parking lot, things of that nature. So I've done all this. Business cards, printing out business cards, going around giving them out, things like that. That's called advertising and marketing. So that's another part of business, right? Advertising, branding, advertising, and marketing. So things like that. So if this was like a business consultation, you would pay a certain amount, or you would subscribe for whatever you could download. That's why people have ebooks, seminars, business coaching, turnkey businesses, startup assistance, registration, various things, right? A business has various components. So that is definitely an important part, is advertising, marketing, and branding. Your business cards, again, your business cards, just in case you didn't get it the first time, business cards, uniforms, if you got like a detailing company, a moving company, anything like that, it would be good to have a uniform. It's good to have a business card, so you can leave them business card. It's also important, when you work these type of businesses, to have invoices, contract, things like that, and you want to give these to your customer as soon as you get there. So like, sign this, this is your invoice, so this is the service that you acquired. So let's say, for example, let's stick with the moving company as an example, right? So you got 4 guys working. You ordered this size truck for moving. You're going this far. You scheduled us on this date, and the time was approximately this to this, and we did these services for you. Like, we bubble wrapped your stuff, we boxed your stuff, we packed your stuff, we moved your stuff, and then here's your invoice. So that way, once you get your invoice, if there's any discrepancy or anything that you may have ordered or not ordered that was there, and you're like, hey, hold on, I didn't order a bubble wrap, and they're like, oh, you know what, you're right, let's review this together, or we'll review this on our end and then refund you your money. Let's say that you scheduled 4 people to come there, and maybe for whatever reason 3 people showed up, so then maybe you should get a discount. because it took them a bit longer. It may have taken them an extra hour, which maybe you had to go do something and you didn't get to go do it. Maybe you had like a nail appointment, maybe you had a dental appointment, and you had to reschedule, or you had to stay a little bit longer and show up late. Why? Because they were short a worker, things like that. So that's where invoices and contracts help. And also on a business point of view, it's very professional, rather than being like, all right, we're done, we're out of here, take care, and then you just walk off with some cash. Giving them options to pay is also professional. So you'd be like, here, transfer me, I got this little thing. You present your phone where the point of sale is on your phone, so they could just pay through Apple Pay or whatever. Or they want to pay cash, they could pay cash, whatever it is, right? Or you have like a little terminal payment where they could tap their card, things like that, right? There's a lot of different things that to be professional is the main goal, right? You want to be a cut above everybody else. You want to show up on time. You want to be punctual, right? You want to show up on time, be punctual as you promised, even maybe arrive a little bit early, right? Just to get started a little bit early. Like I said earlier, same thing as networking. Be clear, have a clear voice. Don't be drunk and high, don't be under the influence. Don't show up sick, or tired or grumpy. Be pleasant to deal with. Make eye contact, answer any questions. Don't get agitated or upset if somebody asks you questions. If somebody's like, hey, how long is it going to take you guys to move? Because, I was hoping you guys would be able to finish like an hour early, so that way I could go do something else, take my dog to the dog park, or go to the grocery store like an hour early, whatever, because I got other errands and tasks to do, right? So your goal as a business is to make life easier for clients and customers. So it's not about you. You don't want to show up and be like, oh my God, I got a hangover and I don't want to do this today and I'm going to work real slow with my eyes closed and just stumble around breaking walls and dropping furniture and dropping glass, right? No, don't show up if you feel like that. Get somebody else to come in. That's the point of having employees or doing other things, right? Don't take on more than you could handle, things like that. If necessary, even cancel and reschedule so that way you could show up professionally. Like I said, be on time. Be well dressed, be well groomed, have proper hygiene, have proper customer service skills, be open and communicate, be able to communicate, provide outstanding service, right? You want to leave everything sparkling clean. You want to do a stellar job, a great job, and have them be repeat customers. You don't want to just, leave them upset and unsatisfied and be like, hey, go find somebody else. If you're going to do that, then you shouldn't even be doing that, right? The other thing is maybe register, be good on the Better Business Bureau, register in business directories, things like that, as far as advertising and marketing and stuff, right? And try to get a good review, try to have them, refer you to a friend or a family member or a co-worker or something, stuff like that, right? That's what you want to be able to do. Yeah. Other thing is administration, documentation, documents, record keeping, things like that, right? So like I said, just what I said right now was invoices, right? Invoices are basically a record of completed projects, right? They're not only a reference of how much the person spent, or for them, for a customer or client, it serves that purpose. It's basically like, oh, this is how much I spent. It says a warranty right here, the fine print, da 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 da. But for you, it's almost a customers like file, right? So you'd be like, oh, so next time they call you, they might call you in like 3 months and be like, hey, you know what, I need to move some stuff to the storage, or move some stuff from my storage, to my place, right? Or I just got an office, I need to move some stuff in their filing cabinets, desks. My friend needs some help from you, whatever. So you go back in your thing, look up the name, and be like, oh, okay, I remember you. That's also a good thing, you'd be like, so for example, let's say Mrs. Smith, right? You'd be like, oh, hey, Mrs. Smith, and she's already happy because she's like, wow, you remember me because you got their number saved in your contacts, So you're like, hey, Mrs. Smith, how are you? I remember we did that job for you 3 months ago. And she's like, yeah, you guys did a very good job, and that's why I'm calling again, because you guys were so pleasant to deal with, and you guys answered all my questions. You guys gave me everything I need, an invoice and everything with the warranty and everything. So I'm calling you guys again for another job, So it's important to have these type of things, record keeping, you know, knowing who you're dealing with, things like that. You don't want to just pick up and be like, hey, who's this? And then they're like, oh, okay, right? So they're like, it's that customer service experience, right? So imagine calling somebody, right? And they're like, yeah, I don't even remember you, but what can I do for you? Versus, oh, hey, Mrs. Smith, how are you? It was great. It was great helping you move to your new house. Oh, how's your dog Betty doing? Things like that, right? She's like, oh my God, this guy's a great guy, or this girl's a great girl, whatever, right? That's a customer service experience. So that's something to be aware of. So the next thing is business registration, right? And having your paperwork and your licenses up to date, your permits, your registration, things like that. So, for example, the automotive industry, as far as you know, you need a certain license, right? You got to be licensed to work there, but also you need a lot. So, what a lot means is like a part, not a lot of things, but like a lot, LOT, as in like a parking lot. So, what you need is like you need a couple parking spaces, and that would be a parking lot, right? So for the automotive industry, if you work there, you need that type of stuff. If you're doing like a rental car lot or a used car lot or car sales lot, things like that, right? A garage, a mechanic garage, that would be a bit different. You need other requirements for that. So if you're like a salesperson, you're gonna need your salesperson's license. 1, 2, you're gonna need to know what you're doing as far as vehicles, because you can't just throw a death trap onto the road, right? You're gonna have to go register with the Ministry of Transportation, things like that, right? They're gonna have to be certified vehicles. You're gonna need a permit. The city's gonna come by and regulate your business. You're gonna have to pay taxes. You're gonna have to keep your license up to date and keep your lot's license up to date. You're gonna have to keep your license as a salesperson up to date. But not only that, you're gonna have to keep your lot, like your physical lot where you park the vehicles. You're gonna have to keep that permit continuously updated annually, right? Yearly. You're gonna have to keep updating it. So things like this, right? You're going to need to do those things. So as far as the business registration, so for example, if you're doing the automotive industry, like I mentioned, so the first thing is you go get your salesperson license, then you get yourself a little office or a place to work out of. So it would be ideal that your parking lot, your lot where you have the vehicles, would also contain your office, right? So you may have an office with a parking space, or you might even get a little piece, like rent a place or own a place, where you could just put like a little container office, you know, one of those portables, things like that, right? And then so business registration, you know, having your own business account for tax purposes would help, and also financing and stuff, right? So if you go for like a business credit card, business insurance, business, so like insure your employees, insure your product, you know, paperwork. This is called paperwork administration, right? And there's different angles. So like if you're a person who owns like a shampoo manufacturing company, and your shampoo is being sold in different stores, for example, Walmart, Kroger's, JVS, Shoppers Drug Mart, this, that, and third, right? Wherever it's being sold at, so these are all different orders. So what happens is you're manufacturing this product, and then this product has to meet the Ministry of Health standards. Not only that, but once it's manufactured, and then it's gonna have to be boxed. You know, it's gonna have to be packaged, put in a shampoo bottle. They're gonna have to close the lid, package it into a box, put it on a truck, send it to the store. The store employees are gonna cut open the box, unbox it, stock it on shelves, and then eventually it's gonna get to customers where they pick it up off the shelf and buy it, and then use that product on their hair. So that's a long way from where it started, where it's being manufactured, right? So there's a lot of paperwork that goes with that. Even the truck that transports it has paperwork, right? The order sheet, where the quantity of the order. So for example, Walmart ordered 40 boxes of shampoo, each containing like 12 shampoo bottles. So that is a document. That's an order. So when you manufactured and bottled this, you went to a company, a third party, or you manufactured in your warehouse, right? And your warehouse, so that's one part, right? So let's say you use your own warehouse or your own facility, right? So it's more than likely gonna have to be commercial space, that industrial or commercial space that meets the city or wherever you live licensing requirements to produce things that go into other people's, on other people or in other people, where they consume the product, right? So the city regulates these things, or the state, the province, whatever it is, they regulate these things, right? And those things all require paperwork. So you're gonna have to pay those fees to maintain those licenses for those places, keep it in a good standard, meet all standards. For example, restaurants. So the Ministry of Health, they come there and they check your sink, they check your garbage, not your garbage, like where you keep your garbage. Is it satisfactory? Does it meet the requirements of safe and away from your food? Things like that. Are your workers wearing gloves? Do they have access to gloves, beard nets, hair nets? Is there cockroaches and mice? Like what's going on? Is your floor clean? Are there dishes in your sink every time they come there? Stuff like that. Are the floors mopped? Is there adequate seating? Do you have a liquor board license for what if you're serving alcohol? Things like that, right? So basically, that's all called administration paperwork, right? Documents. So that's something you got to make sure is done correctly and up to the standards of the city or the state and province, right? You want to be at the top of your game, and the only way to do that is to firstly meet all requirements set forth by the city that you live in, right? For example, like my clothing company, if I wanted to attend events in the city, I could do that. But guess what? There's something called a vendor permit, right? So with the vendor permit, I could purchase the vendor permit or apply for that licensing or permit, and then I could set up shop basically where I want to. So I could go to certain events in the city, right? Let's say a music concert. Let's say like some type of city event, and I could go put a tent there, put a table there, get my chair, and put out my product on the table. So my shirts, my caps, bags, pins, whatever, and then just sit there and sell my items, right? So this vendor permit would allow for me to sell whatever I want, or not whatever I want to, but sell my items, however I please. Oh yeah, and that also advertising for that is like, in that situation, I would put up a banner on my tent. I would have some type of signage, maybe like one of those foldable, collapsible little, the ones that you see like when you're driving and you see the real estate sale right here, open house viewing, da 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 da, right? Things like that. So basically, I would have something like that, right? So it'd be like 5% off, buy one get one free, whatever promotions going on, just to catch people's eyes as they walk by. I'll put up an advertisement on social media, be like, hey, today I'm at this event on this location from this time to this time. Come by and mention this ad and you get, a cap for free type of thing, right? Because when they come there, they might look at the caps and then be like, oh, I want a bag to go with this cap. I want a hat to go with this, things like that. Then I'll put like my business name logo above on the tent, or where it's visible for people walking by further in the crowds, maybe, things like that. So business registration is definitely important. And then the next thing is appearance, right? So if you're like, let's say a business consultation person, you're doing accounting or whatever, you want to be dressed nicely, right? You want to wear like maybe a polo t-shirt, or like, you could just wear a normal t-shirt and just be clean in appearance, right? But I would suggest you wear something like a button-up t-shirt, maybe a dress shirt, a suit possibly, or a dress that's nice, if you're a woman, whatever it may be, right? Appearance and presentation. So you want to keep yourself looking clean and have people want to do business with you, have good hygiene, smell pleasant. You don't want to overpower them with like strong musty cologne and drown them. Like you could smell it's like toxic cleaning fumes, right? Like you walk in and you're almost lightheaded and passing out because the fragrance is so strong, right? You don't want to overpower them, and then you don't want to smell bad either. You just want to like just take a shower, you know, and then that's about it. You don't even have to, you know, some workplaces, like if you're in a shared office workspace, it may be what is that called, like a fragrance free zone, right, due to allergies and things of that nature. So the only thing you can do is just take a shower, brush your teeth, you know, have a clean appearance, grooming, and then show up and just smell decent, you know, smell good. That's about it, right? And if you do use perfume or fragrances or cologne, just try to go easy, you know, just like deodorant is enough, because you can smell deodorant smells fairly pleasant, right? Or just soap and, you know, body shower gel, whatever you use, it smells fairly decent and it lasts a fair amount of time, you know, till like lunch, till maybe even until the end of the day, the work day, right? So if you do use perfume or cologne or fragrances, just try to be easy, be mindful, you know, don't put like air fresheners that are like overpowering, you know, maybe just like use like a light fragrance, some candles in your office space, and keep it in your desk, you know, so that way it smells nice throughout your office, but it's not overpowering, and like people don't have allergies and have to run out scratching their neck and their throat is swelling and their eyes are itching and red and swollen. You don't want that, because also they might sue you, right? You don't know. So like I said, that goes back to business registration. Make sure you get insurance, make sure you have liability coverage, especially if you have like a moving company or detailing or something where you might scratch something and the customer might lose their minds and sue you. You know, you want to have insurance to cover you for that, because you don't want to be at expense for damaging something expensive, right? I mean, you don't want to be at liability and responsible for something like that. The other thing is etiquette, right? Etiquette. So when your clients come to your office, it would be nice to be like, hey, do you want a coffee or tea or some water, maybe a beverage, a snack, you know, because you don't know if they're running around all day. You don't know if, you know, if they're planning on getting a snack after this and they're in a rush to get out of here just to get a snack, right, or a drink. So it'd be good to give them something, and have something on hand for them. The other thing is etiquette, like phone etiquette. When you answer your phone, you know, speak clearly. Try not to be distracted while you're on the phone and doing too many things at once, so you could give them your attention and not be like, what, and repeat yourself, excuse me, They're gonna be like, you know what, I'll just call you another time, and they're just not gonna call you back at all. So try to be aware of that. You know, have reliable phone service, be pleasant to speak to, be like, hey, how are you, you know, take care, thank you for your business, come again, right? You don't want to be like, oh, what's up, oh yeah, all right, and then just cut the phone, because they're gonna be like, you know, that wasn't too pleasant. Try to be mindful of that, you know, even if it's not your character. That's what professionalism is. Being professional means that you're willing to, you know, kind of sacrifice for your customers or clients or whoever's, you know, keeping the bills paid. So yeah, work on that, you know, like etiquette, email etiquette, the right salutations, dear sir / ma'am, dear sir, dear ma'am, to whom it may concern, or if you're addressing other people, you know, use the right title, the right salutations, say sincerely, thank you, and then your name, make sure you put your name in there. If it's a formal one, you know, try to put the date in the corner, put whatever the address, you know, the names. Make sure your emails are up to standard, your phone etiquette, you know, everything like that. The other thing is, so let's say, for example, like a travel company, right? So the first thing is, let's say, or I'll give you two examples, right? So one office is just blacked out window. You cannot see anything. You cannot see into the office. There's no sign that says travel company or anything, you know? It's just like a dark office. And you open the door and you go in and there's nowhere to sit. You gotta stand in the lobby. And then they're like, hey, come on over. And then they call you to the office. They don't have furniture in there, just a table for themselves and then their computer and a chair, and you got to stand there discussing your travel, right? That's the first example. So you're making travel plans and you can't even sit down, and it's going to be a lengthy conversation. And then the second one is if you see like a picture of like a resort, palm trees, a sunny Disneyland, you know, Atlantis, whatever, and then it's colorful display on the window. You could see into the office. You see the employees working, all smiling, hey, right? And then you go in there. There's etiquette, seating. The receptionist is like, hey, give me a second, I'll be right with you, or hey, come on, right this way. What can we do for you? Things like that, right? And then you go into the office. There's pleasant people to work with, right? And they have a screen that turns and they can show you everything what they're talking about as they're doing it, so that way you could agree on things, whatever. And then that's a great customer service experience. On the way out, they have some candy on the counter for you or something. That's a great customer service experience, right? And then everything goes as you planned in the office once you do go on vacation, and then you come back and you're obviously going to use them again because it was such a great experience, right? So those are things to be mindful of, like signage, visibility, again, being pleasant, obviously furnishing your office properly so that way people have a place to sit. There's a washroom to use, there's water bottles, things like that. If you're busy and they see that you're in a meeting and they gotta come back in like 5-10 minutes, it'd be great to have a coffee store or something across, in the same plaza or building, or a cafe downstairs where they got sandwiches and coffee or something, where they could go grab something to bite, go for a quick walk or whatever, and then use a washroom maybe and come right back, right? And there you go, boom, the room is free, things like that. That's something to be considerate of. The other thing is so online visibility, right? Like search engine optimization. That means on Google they could type in travel agency, boom, and then your company pops up. They could type in real estate agent, boom, your thing pops up. You're on Google, you're listed on Google, you show up on Google, right? That's one thing. And then having an online presence, maybe have like a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, things like that, right? Be listed on the Better Business Bureau, be listed on other business directories, obviously like newspaper ads, maybe signage like on the side of the road, a news commercial, a little snippet on the news where your commercial plays, radio. There's various ways of advertising, word of mouth, reference, flyers, newspapers, like I mentioned, business cards, things of that nature. So yeah, there's things like that. Signage, like on the window where you're walking past, and it's like real estate office or what is that? Like travel company, so that way they know where they're going and what they're entering, right? Yeah, so those type of things. Customer service is key. And the other thing is, once you're a business owner, the other thing is managing it, wealth management, business management. Those are things you should look into. Maybe even take a course online. If you don't have the time for that, just watch some YouTube videos, try to find a mentor, like I said, and do things of that nature, just to keep the wheels greased and have no issue in the wheels turning and moving you forward and going to where you're going, rather than hitting bumps in the road and your brakes halting and screeching and stuff like that. Keep it oiled. And what I mean by oiled is like a metaphor for have mentors, who could walk you through certain situations that you're not experienced enough with. Have a legal team, maybe a lawyer you could call and get advice on. Have an accountant who you could call and get advice from things on. Take some courses. Take some like customer service skill courses, self-development courses, wealth management courses, You know, there's things like, so ACN, for example, like I mentioned, there was a lot of people who were already wealthy or established business owners, right? So there's a lot of things you can learn, you know, just personal development, like read certain books, listen to certain music, go to the art gallery, you know, um, sit around other business owners, go to like business expos, things like that, right? Just to develop some character, like, you know, also your appearance, like wear suits, wear something clean. So when you step out of the house and you go to the one thing I learned, this is something a mentor told me. If I go to the grocery store and I'm in pajamas and someone's like, "Hey, aren't you the owner of that clothing company?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, why are you dressed like a homeless person then? You know. So if I were to dress nicely, I'm not saying they would say that because that would be rude, but you know, they might think that and walk away and be like, that's kind of odd that this guy owns a clothing company, but he's dressed a little bit, you know, not as we'd expect. So instead of that, if you wear something nice and clean and you go to the store, you know, because you never know who you might bump into. You might bump into an old friend and be like, hey, you know what? Here's my business card. Always have some business cards with you and be pleasant and smell good, and, you know, because you don't know who you will bump into. So that's something I learned. So you could give them a business card. You look clean and presentable. You know, you smell good. They don't mind speaking to you. They could stand around you and talk to you. Things like that. Be approachable. Be pleasant. Stuff like that. That's something also I learned. And the other thing is, you know, try to go to like try to learn things through ebooks, seminars, webinars. You know, inquire with other people, try to network, reach out to your network, attend like business things, take a Toastmasters class where that's like a place where you can learn about like public speaking, speech, presentation, you know, things like that. Work on presentation skills. You can have like a thing in the back, you know, like a board where you can flip the pages. There's like charts and diagrams and things like that. So you're just flipping the pages, charts, diagrams, you know, like a presentation. You can make a slideshow, put it on a projector, stuff like that, right? You want to have good presentation skills and help people understand what you're saying, maybe with visuals, diagrams, you know, for example. So I'm writing this down, right, which I'm going to turn into a checklist. So as I go here, so like I was saying previously, so I'm jotting it down as I go just to remember to make this checklist later. So like invoices, contract, advertising, marketing, branding, flyers, business card, business startup, checklist, supplies, office, mentorship, registration, taxes, business accounts, insurance, legal, business cards, reminder board, projector, office, workspace, business, paperwork, essentials, admin, administration, you know, things of that nature. So you want to have tools and resources like this, you know, but also if I was making a presentation right now and for example, I got my, not this, but like a larger presentation board where I'm just flipping through it and I got charts and diagrams saying this and that, or I got certain like an office space that I could show you, like, oh look, this office space has a coffee shop across the street. This one has a entry pad, a key entry pad, right? So that would help a lot, just to show people visuals, right? If you're doing a seminar, a webinar, business coaching, you know, whatever. So yeah, that is very good. All right, so me personally, like I said, a lot of people want to know about Amazon and stuff like that, right? Reselling, e-commerce. So as I mentioned, my clothing company, I got an online store hosted through Big Cartel. You also got like Shopify, Etsy. You could have your own website that does e-commerce, things like that, right? And so Amazon. My experience with Amazon was this. So basically, when Nintendo, trying to recall the Nintendo system, it is the Nintendo joysticks. I can't remember what system it was for, but when these things came out, I just so happened to have a surplus of inventory. So that means like inventory on hand, which I was just selling in person, right? Through like little websites, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, like little apps, you know, Craigslist. selling stuff in person. And then I noticed, oh yeah, and eBay. Um, so on Amazon, what I did was I took these items. So for example, let's say this notepad, right? And I listed it. So first thing I did was register with Amazon as a seller, Amazon seller, Amazon partner. And then that gave me access to a marketplace through the web, internationally, right? Or even locally if you just want to work locally. For me, I went international. Uh, and once you register with them and you have that option, you're basically gonna on your whatever device you use, your phone, your laptop, your computer, tablet, you'll be able to see like the panel, right? Like the admin dashboard panel. So you log into your Amazon seller profile, boom, and then you have your storefront. Not only do you have your storefront, but you have everything there, right? Like your customer service chat panel. You have your inventory items. Um, you have like your rating, because on Amazon is a customer service based place where your rating is everything. If you get a bad rating, you will be your Amazon partnership, your Amazon seller account will be terminated or placed on hold, right? So you won't be able to sell anything else. So like for example, if somebody's purchasing something off you and they don't receive it, right? Or if the timer, the other thing is there's a timer. So if you get an order and it says like ship this out within 3 business days, 24 hours, whatever it is, there's a timer that starts, and then the timer just continues running. And if you do not make that sale in that time, then it is canceled. And if you do, say you did it and they don't get it, your account will be obviously terminated, things like that, right? So, like I mentioned, that's all on the dashboard. You got to communicate with your customers because they might be like, hey, I ordered this, like what are the dimensions of it? But the thing is, once you list your item, so for example like this, right, this notepad, I'll be like, it's about what, maybe 5 inches, right, by 3 inches, and then it's got, so right here, right, 3.5 inches by 7, and then 150 sheets right there, 150 sheets, right? So in here you got 150 sheets. So when I order this, I'm like, oh, perfect. It's 150 sheets and it's 3.5 inches by 7, right? So for example, they'll be like, hey, what color is this? They might ask some questions that's already listed on your listing, right? And the pictures, because they might be like, hey, the picture shows like a pink stick, you know, is that what I'm going to get? And you can be like, oh, you know what, that's a stock picture. The color options, what we have in stock is like, you know, yellow and red. And they'll be like, okay, you know what, let me get a yellow or red. But you obviously have to put that information in the listing, which we do. But I'm just saying, in some cases, if you forget, you could tell them the options, you know, later on. Right. So for example, my Amazon, so like I mentioned, it's the little joysticks, and I was selling them internationally. So I was selling them in Canada, America, Africa, China, Europe, Latin America, Australia. I got an order in Australia, so I was literally selling them internationally, all over the world, globally. And what would happen is, so from my point of view, is this is how it happens, right? My perspective is, basically, like I mentioned, I became an Amazon partner. I got the Amazon dashboard. I take my product and then I make a listing. I put up a photo. I give a description of the item as accurately as possible. I say like, it's this color. These are the dimensions. This is what you're getting in the box. You know, everything like that. And then once they order, I get a message on the dashboard that says, hey, you have to ship this item out within this amount of time. So I go ship it out. Oh yeah, and here's the thing. There's the option to drop ship your item. Drop shipping means that you can store your item in the Amazon warehouse. So you take your stock of items and you ship them out to it's a one-time shipping, right? You just go ship it out and then they stock it and warehouse it at the Amazon warehouse. And whenever somebody orders your item, so all you're responsible for at that point is the listing and then the picture and That's about it. You know, any customer service, right? Amazon will handle all the drop shipping, which means that they will, once they get the order, boom, the warehouse employees will get the label, the the shipping label. They'll get everything. They'll go pick and pack the item, um, and then they'll ship it to the customer within the time limit, and they're responsible for all of that on their end, right? But that is a paid service, so you have to pay them for that service. And then you can send them your item, and they'll handle all the shipping, packaging, any returns, anything like that. So it's a very good service to use, right? Um, but some people, they like to be more hands-on, or they might not be at that level of operation, you know. So they might just handle things themselves. So for example, me, even though my thing was international and I did a couple of units, like at least 50, a sales of at least 50 units internationally, I still did it by myself. Um, just because I want to learn how, it was my first time on Amazon, so I want to learn how Amazon marketplace as a seller works, right? I want to learn everything, the insides and outs, and all the details of how this thing works, right? So if I had chose the drop shipping option and just made it easier on myself and be like, here, you guys handle all the packaging, the boxing, the shipping, the labeling, the returns, this and that and the third, they would have done that. But I just want to learn, right? I'm just an inquisitive person, so me personally, I want to learn. I want to know everything about how it works. Um, so basically, so now when I get the order, I print out the shipping label, I package it, I get my inventory, I go to the post office, and then I drop it off. I ship it within that time limit. If there's any customer service and they ask me anything, like if they're like, hey, how long is it gonna take? You know, Amazon said it's gonna take like 24 hours. Do you think it's gonna come earlier? Do you think it's gonna come later? You know, like, hey, can I add a second order? Da 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 da, and you know, stuff like that, whatever. Or they leave a customer service rating, right? They'd be like, listen, this guy is very good. He answers all my questions very fast. I got my item in the time, because they pay for shipping as well, right? The customer on their end, they're paying for, you know, 1 day business. 1 day shipping, 2 day shipping, you know, standard shipping, whatever, expedited shipping. So they're expecting that service, right? So you got to keep your end of the deal, and make sure that they get what they need and give a good customer service experience and answer everything in a timely manner. You know, try to answer their emails or inquiries within 1 business day. That's my goal, right? My goal is to answer everything within 1 business day, because me personally, as a customer of Amazon, as well as a Amazon partner, is that, you know, like, because sometimes I order craft supplies and stuff like that, right? Where it's from like a craft store or a bookstore. I order a book and I'm like, hey, you know, like, it says that it's been shipped out a bit earlier. When do you think it'll get here? Like, what type of shipping did you use, and when can I expect it to get here? And they'll be like, yeah, it says like 3 to 7 business days, but you could expect it to get there by tomorrow, maybe, you know, because I shipped it out today. I put like 1 day shipping. Da 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 da. It'll be there probably tomorrow. So now Amazon, it'll be like 3 to 7 days, and then later they'll be like, you know, did you receive this item? Do you want to give feedback? Da 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 da. You know, they'll say delivered at that point, but you might have had the book or the craft product or whatever you ordered. It may have gotten to you, like, you know, earlier that week, and like 3 days earlier than Amazon expected, right? It all depends on the seller, right, and how quick they work. Um, so things of that nature. Uh, so yeah, so for my store, I learned a lot about how the post office works, the shipping options. So like, as a person who's selling it themselves, like, you could schedule pickups with these companies like American, was that United States Parcel Service, USPS, FedEx, UPS, Purelator, you know, all these different things, these different mail and carriage services, right? Um, and like how they work, like packages by weight, shipping and labeling, and returns, and expedited shipping, standard shipping, business shipping by the end of the same business day, and the cutoff time. like how packages, insurance on packages, so that way they don't get damaged. Um, Different options like that, tracking, signature on a package once it's received. A lot of things like that. That's one component I learned, but I also learned the customer service component, right? So like keeping a good standard. So my Amazon account was in good standing. It was at a 99% rating. It was very good, and it was the best seller for that specific product and that sector, right, or that group of like technological video gaming items, accessories, video game accessories, right? So the number one bestseller internationally, which was impressive to myself as well because it was my first time on Amazon. Um, it's not that I didn't know what I was doing, but it's like, because I try to be professional and I try to run it just like I do have experience because of working in certain places. Like I've worked in the Amazon warehouse, I've worked for UPS, I've worked in the mall with technology. Like I've worked for this the Source, a technology store in the mall, so customer service. So when I started my Amazon partnership and my Amazon business, my Amazon storefront, what I wanted to do was give that same type of customer service as if I was working in the mall, as if I was working for UPS, as if I was working for Canada, I mean like the post office. Um, so that's what I tried to do. And then it proved to work out well because I did receive a good standard. So like when I did finish my inventory, I didn't want to risk keeping my store open, things like that. So like I kind of slowed it down, unlisted my item, and I didn't have any other product to really sell on Amazon. Like I didn't have a surplus of inventory, right? That was just like a test run to see where this could take me, e-commerce and like online selling. So basically, once I did that, it was successful. So my first time trying it out was very successful. I did make a return on investment. So for example, if I spent $300, I made like a percentage, whatever percentage of return of investment back. Um, Very good, a pleasant experience. Amazon, I didn't have to bother Amazon too much, but I like the options that they gave me. Like they gave me the drop shipping option, the warehousing option. So to like warehouse my items at the Amazon warehouse, then have them handling all the shipping and the returns and stuff like that. I like that option that they gave me. But I also did use eBay as well, right? So eBay's almost like you just get the order, you sell it. It's kind of the same thing. It's like an eBay seller, right? So I use both platforms. I use Amazon and I used eBay, but I also use like the local ones like Kijiji, Craigslist, whatever local listings, and all those platforms and avenues were successful. I did make a return of investment, like I said, and I was very happy with the outcome and how it worked out, right? But the most important thing to me was that I did something that I never thought, I never even considered, which was becoming a like global. Amazon gave me the opportunity to be global, international, and ship places all over the place. I do have these receipts. I still have the invoices, and maybe I might upload them in this video just as an example. Actually, I don't want to put that information there because these are customer invoices, so I don't think I'll be doing that. But like I said, I got to send things to Africa, China, Sydney, Australia, America, all over America, Canada, Latin America, Mexico, Europe, France, all over the place, right? And that to me just, made me think outside the box, above and beyond of what I'm capable of, because I thought I was just gonna be sending stuff down the street, right? To like my neighbors or like people that live in this city, the city that I live in. So I never even imagined doing business in other countries like that. And even like going to the post office and shipping it out to these countries and looking at the receipt and looking at the shipping label and be like, wow, I'm really sending stuff over here, And that was just like an eye-opening, surreal experience for me because it made me take myself more seriously and understand business and commerce. And then just to see that money go into my account, right? It was something that was like, I didn't know that was possible in those ways. And it opened up, it broadened my horizons, and it just made me come to reality that there's all these opportunities and you could do so much, Um, yeah. So that platform was also helpful. You know, if I did ever have some items like that again, I would definitely use Amazon or like Etsy, Shopify, whatever, because they're very helpful. You know, because it's like instead of just having your own site, I might even go with my own site, but just have them as a domain host, right? Things like that. Yeah. So I like what I learned there. I was very young when I did that. I was only like 23, 24. Um, and I started doing that. And it was a very good experience. It helped me be professional. It gave me character moving forward. You know, it gave me a lot of business acumen, business demeanor, business like understanding of business, business management, um, and things of that nature. Right? It taught me a lot. Is what I could say from that. Um, yeah, it was a very good experience for me. Some people, you know, they may not have the same experience. They might be like, you know what, I don't understand none of this. Amazon didn't help me. Um, I messed up my orders because Amazon da 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 da. For me, it's not that, you know. For me, it worked out well. I didn't have to contact Amazon and ask them anything because it was pretty straightforward. I got everything. I understood everything. And maybe that's because I already have experience working in these places because I've worked jobs there. So maybe I understood like how to use the computer, how to customer service, you know, inventory, picking, packing, shipping, labeling, categorizing, inventorizing, you know, invoices, document keeping, records, administration, you know, um, how to link my bank account, even that, stuff like that, right? So made a lot of sense. Yeah, and that's what I can say about that. And the biggest reward I got from this, like I said, is being an international seller or a global seller. And that was my biggest achievement there. And also, like the reviews, the customer reviews, reading the customer reviews put a smile on my face because they were all like, oh, the package arrived in, you know, mint condition, pristine condition, just like it would from uh, Walmart or Kroger or JVS or, you know, uh, whatever stores, you know, um, Future Shop, Best Buy. So basically, people were leaving me good reviews like that. They're like, this guy was really fast to respond to my comments. I mean, not my comments, my inquiries. He responded within like two to 5 hours or the same day. The package arrived in good condition, in excellent condition. You know, and it arrived in the time it was supposed to arrive in, or even earlier. The shipping label was, you know, good. Everything was good, and it's the product that I was looking for. You know, there was no defects with the products. The product was very good, working, and no issues. You know, things of that nature. So you want to make sure you have a quality product as well, and that your product works. You know, your product is the original product. It's not, you know, something that it's not supposed to be. Those are things, especially if you want to keep a good name, and have good ratings, right? So, for example, the other thing is, so now let's say that I was doing this on my own, right? So let's say I made my own website, and then I was selling them through my own website. It would be the same thing as Amazon. The only thing is you just don't have the big search engine of Amazon, right? Where people just go type this item in and it pops up, and then Amazon is basically making the sale for you, and you're just the person who has the product, right? So you'd have to put in a lot more legwork, and basically, you would have to advertise and get your own clients and customers, right? So you'd have to do a lot more like search engine optimization, word of mouth, signage, advertising, flyers, business cards, social media, list your business on different directories, your product, and that is a lot harder. But like I said, so like for example, Kijiji, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, that is listing it yourself, you know. So even that was successful for me because this was a hot item, right? It was a product that was really, really, really selling, and it was on fire, right? So it was like a trending product. It was like a highly in demand. Like Best Buy was sold out, Future Shop was sold out, Walmart was sold out. So even that made it better for me because guess what? I do have it, right? So people are like, wow, Amazon and I mean not Amazon, Best Buy and Walmart is sold out. You have it. They're like, I will come right now to pick it up. I'll even give you extra if you could hold it for me, an extra $20 if you could hold that for me because you know my kids need it, or I just bought a system and I would like it, or you got the color that I want, things like that, right? So people were, it was going like this, right? And that's another thing, you want to pick a thing. Like you might even do like, you might be selling things that over time is gonna make sales, right? In the future, like let's say like again these notepads, right? So something listing like if you buy like 1,000 of these and you happen to get a good deal on them, so like $1 a piece, and then you list them on Amazon or wherever on your own store for like $3.50, and then over time, because you know like something like a notepad, even though it gets sold a lot, it's not like a technological product where it's like trending and it's like a cool thing, you know, and you're trying to keep up with the trends and the time, right? These are just like office supplies. So over time, maybe in like a year, maybe your inventory will sell out, but nonetheless they're gonna sell, right? So in that time period, they're slowly gonna sell out. And that's the thing about like Amazon drop shipping, right? If your item isn't selling like 10 items a day very quick, then basically if you're planning on long term, it's good to warehouse with Amazon and then let them slowly ship it out, because you might even forget that you listed this and then not be making orders, right? Whereas Amazon, for the next year to 10 years, they'll be able to have your item in their warehouse and they'll slowly ship it out long term, right? So that's the benefit of warehousing with Amazon, inventorizing with Amazon, and drop shipping and letting them handle your shipping and returns and stuff, right? And picking and packing. So that's the good thing about it. So they could sell things over time, you know, like long term for like 1 to 10 years. They'll be able to do that type of stuff. So you just list it and leave it, and the money will just go into your account, you know, long term. So the other thing I want to talk about quickly, I'm not going to do a full video about this, but just was like Forex and cryptocurrency, because that's another thing as far as like online commerce I was doing. So like Forex, you need a certain platform. Before a while ago, like before 2010, you would have to go into a bank, and the minimum investment you would have to have is $10,000. And I say this from experience because I went to my bank, I spoke to a bank advisor, a financial advisor at my branch, and spoke to them, things like that. So what I was told was that you need a minimum of $10,000 and the investment, and they would handle everything, right? So you wouldn't even really have too much of what was going on, like you wouldn't know too much and you wouldn't have a say in it. So now with technology, you got things on your phone, like for example for Forex and stuff, there's the Metafor Trader platform. There's other platforms where I can't remember right now, but the other thing is the Swiss Trader, things like that. For crypto, there's like, you know, the Bitcoin wallets, Coinbase, Wealthsimple, crypto wallets and currency wallets, right? So these type of things, the thing with it is that you have to send like identification, register your account, put your banking information, link your banking information, verify your identity. And some of these places have minimum requirements of investments, right? So like, let's say for example, they're like, you need to invest $100 to activate your account. The other thing is like, you want to make sure that the money is able to be withdrawn, right? So what you want to do when you start with these things is start with a very micro account, like, and by micro account, what I'm trying to say is like a minimal investment, like maybe $100, but try to keep it even under $100 if you can, you know, like $50, something that you're not gonna miss too much, you know. It's not a big portion of your life savings on your first investment ever, and boom, you know, it's wiped out clean, or because of fluctuating, you know, volatility in the markets. But also the other thing is the most important thing is like being able to withdraw, because these are online entities, right? So for example, if you invest $100 and then boom, you know, you get a stroke of luck, beginner's luck, and your money turns into $500. You know, I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying this is reality. That's very highly unlikely. But I'm just giving an example, right? So now, when it's $500, you're all excited. You're like, wow, my first trade, and I've already made a $500, $400 of profit, you know, and I got a return of investment, ROI. You know, I'm a day trader now, right? Whatever it is, I'm a crypto trader, I'm a stock trader, and voila, right? So now you go to withdraw your money, and they say, we're having trouble verifying your identification, you know, or something like that, which is known to happen with certain companies. That's why a lot of people avoid these online platforms, and they would rather trade through their bank, because the bank has security, right? They will give you your return of investment, things like that. But the thing with this is that your money might not be able to be withdrawn, so now you've actually lost $100, right? Because it shows that you gained $400, but now you can't withdraw anything. So guess what? You just lost $100, right? So you're gonna end up closing the app, angry, deleting it off your phone, and be like, damn, that was a waste of $100, right? So the first thing you want to make sure. So for example, Wealthsimple and Coinbase, I put in a very small amount. I made some profit on it. I held the shares for like a year. I made a little bit of return on it. So if I put a larger amount in, I would have made a great profit. But I also, so let's say like out of 5, only 2 were profitable, right? So the other 3, it didn't really make a difference, because I invested so little, right? Like pennies on the dollar. So pretty much once I invested this, and then like I noticed that these 3 were not making me money, I simply just cut losses. I didn't try to like, keep up with it and lose more money. I just let it go. And then the other 2 that made me profit, they covered the expenses of the 3 that I dropped, but they also made more money, right? So these 2 covered it. So, and then when they did do that, but the other thing is I want to see if they would actually release the money. So I withdrew the money, and it did go to my bank account. So personally, I can tell you from personal experience, Coinbase, Wealthsimple, I'm not sure about now, because this was back in like 2018, 2017, 2019, somewhere around there. So basically that, I don't know about it now. I don't know these platforms. I don't use them. It was just something I wanted to test out and see how it works, right? Just to learn, just to have fun with. So I didn't invest anything too heavy, and by that I mean like anything under $100. The other thing is, so if you do forex, which is foreign exchange, that means like the foreign global currency market, right? Pretty much what you want to start with is a practice account, a demo account, and just learn the ins and outs of it. Learn how to read the charts. Learn how to read. There's something called a bullish run. Learn when to sell, when to buy. Learn that what is the term for that? It's called. It's basically a thing where you get leverage, right? So like one share is actually backed for like 100 shares, right? And that's called like leveraging, right? And you don't want to. It's almost like credit. You don't want to take too much of it, and you kind of want to use your own money, right? You want to play with your money, not play, but invest with your money and risk your own money and assume responsibility for your own risk rather than borrow. Because let's say, for example, if you have a credit card, so let's say you invest with a debit card for $5, right? So all you're willing to lose is that $5. So once that $5, if it's lost, then you lost it. If it turns into $10, then great, right? But the thing is, let's say you sign up with a credit card, and then you don't realize that you signed up for a thing where they're trading for you, and now your $50 investment turned into a $300 expense because they've taken more than you've noticed, and they're leveraging it, and boom, you're wiped out for $300, but you originally thought you were investing $50, and that's what you're putting up. So now you end up getting a credit card bill for $300, right? Or example, same thing, right? You might make up $100, and that's great, and that goes to your account, right? In the know, the scenario where you lose some money, you want to make sure that you know what you're losing rather than losing something that you don't know you're losing and then you just get a bill for it. That's an important part. And if you're into stocks and stuff, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's pips, candle charts, which is one of my favorites. Learning to read candle charts was one of my like funnest experiences. I learned that when I was 19. This was way before they had smartphone apps and stuff like that. Like I said, you had to go into your bank and purchase stocks or purchase things, forex, right? There was no such thing as crypto back then, or there may have been, but it was very unheard of. It was something almost that you steer away from, because it was a bit iffy and, like, you know, it was a bit. There was a lot of like negativity associated. It was almost like, is this gonna work or not work? Right? It was still at that stage. A lot of people, you know, it was something that was unheard of back in those times, right? When I was 19, which was like 2009, around there. I mean, yeah, 2011. But when I did learn about forex and the stock market, you know, all this stuff, pips, bullish, bearish market, candle charts, you know, charts, runs, you know, all this stuff, collateral. I mean, not collateral. What is that? Again, the thing I was talking about, leveraging, and all these terms and how the markets work, you know, and the different places. Like, for example, the forex market. So, like, let's say the stock market, right? Let's say the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, or NY, so NYSE, New York Stock Exchange, where that's commodities, stocks, penny stocks, things like that. I think there's a certain time period of the day where they operate, right? Whereas the forex market, that's why I looked into the forex market more than stocks and options, right? So like stocks, options, commodities, you could buy them and you could, you know, work your way through the stock market and learn how to do stock trading, and long-term holding, investments, things like that. But again, nothing is ever guaranteed, right? You get what I'm saying? So there's no guarantee that you're gonna get any money back. There's no guarantee that you're gonna even earn money. There's no guarantee that you won't lose your money when you do things like this, right? And then the forex market, it operates in different cities throughout the world, right? So for example, Japan, London, New York, there's different places all over the world where the currency exchange market is operating. So that's the difference between the stock market and then the forex market, right? Foreign exchange market. The hours also vary. So things like that, and also even your requirements to invest may vary. The platforms may vary. Like I said, there's like the Metafor, the Swiss Trader, all that stuff. You know, there's different platforms, and I'm sure there's other platforms that I don't even know about, that like people who work in the financial sector, because the financial sector is not my thing. It's just something that I toyed around with just to like see what the big deal was about. There's other forms of investments, obviously, like owning a business, real estate, stocks and bonds, and accounts, you know, high interest accounts, or even just a savings account, with like a small return of like 1%, 2%. You know, it's a money game. That's what it is. So basically, if you can play the money game, you can play the money game. You just gotta have money to play the money game, right? That's the most important thing. That probably is the most important thing, because without that, you can't really play. It's almost like your admission ticket. So you kind of gotta pay at the door, or purchase your ticket, right? So if you go to like a baseball game, a basketball game, hockey game, whatever you're into, you're definitely not gonna be given access to enter the building at all without a ticket. That's the whole purpose of purchasing tickets. That's why it's a big business, a multi-billion-dollar corporation with sports teams and things of that nature. Why? Because there's so much profitability in ticket sales, right? So it's the same thing. Once you open an account, you're gonna have to have money, and it's not guaranteed, right? So that's something to be aware of and be cautious of. That's something I've experienced with. That's why I can speak about it. If I didn't know anything about it and I've never put a penny into an account or ever experienced a trade, I would not speak about it, because I'm not that type of person to just speak about things that I don't know. So I do have experience with storefronts and owning businesses and business registration, profitability, all that stuff, inventory, packing, picking, shipping, labeling, inventory, invoices, business startup, branding, starting your own business, advertising, stocks, crypto, forex, things like that. I do have experience with, right? And those are things that I'm willing to discuss, because obviously there's other investments and other forms of investing that sometimes it's better to not share those things until you're comfortable to share those things, right? So that's another thing. Another thing that reminds me is that so storefronts, right? I talked about offices, so storefronts, for example, my clothing store. So for that, so in the city, so let's say for example in New York, there's something called so there's different regions, right? Like Times Square in New York City, where if you open up a store in Times Square, just the foot traffic alone, like people in New York City, tourists, it's like one of the world's biggest tourist attractions, right? So if you were to stand there selling flags, American flags, and memorabilia and little tourist attraction, little postcards, things like that, you would probably do very well for yourself. Even if you had a hot dog stand, a hot dog vendor, you're selling drinks, pops, and waters, sodas, and stuff, you would probably do very well for yourself. If you have a Burger King, or whatever, McDonald's or anything like that, you would probably do very well for yourself, just because of the amount of foot traffic there, right? And by foot traffic, I mean like the amount of visitors coming there physically and walking past your store, right? Or walking into your store. So for example, so like a clothing store, right? So let's say like the fashion district in New York, or let's say like Times Square. So if you had a clothing store in a place where it's known for people like tourist visitors, or the garment district, fashion district, where people come in and then they buy things that's related to that. So it makes sense to have a clothing store there. So once you get a store, so the thing about it is location. They say location, 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 right? Location is a very important thing. So if you're like a mechanic, it would make sense that you wouldn't be looking at the mall, because where in a mall would you put a mechanic, like a garage? Have you ever seen a mechanic or a Mr. Lube, or like a oil check place in a mall? No, you haven't. Those would probably be usually at like a auto store, auto parts store, or industrial area, things like that. Whereas the mall would probably be the host to clothing stores, food stores, perfume, home items, appliances, things like that, right? It's just like a shopping center. It's not for the automotive industry. So you got to look at where you're putting your stuff, right? So for example, my clothing store, which is what I have, so basically a mall would be ideal. So I did look at malls. There's a couple malls that I went to look at, and then the thing you learn about these things is that there's different types of malls, right? So there's like A tier malls, A rating malls, B rating malls, C rating malls. So the example for that is like, let's say in New York, like New York's most visited and like highest rated and most famous mall, right? Or in any city, like the mall that is the best known for being a mall, and everybody else talks about it and they always go there, and it's known for like the best of the best, right? Like the highest big brands, right? And stuff like that. So it's going to cost a lot more to get a store there, because all the brands are already big name and established, right? So they're all like big brand names, so when you try to get a store in there, it's going to cost you a lot, but they may even ask you about your business. So you might not even be able to get a store there without giving them a business portfolio, a proven record of sales, track record of sales, have your business registered, your brand awareness, like how popular is your brand, you know, do any celebrities know it, things of that nature, right? So they may even take that into account in an A class, A tier mall. That's what that means. It's very exclusive, you know. It's almost like trying to move into a neighborhood where everybody has a great credit score in the 800s. They're all high paid doctors and celebrities and things of that nature, and it's a gated community, and they're very selective of who they let into there, right? So that means like they're very selective. They don't just let any stranger walk in here. You would have to have a certain occupation, references, credit score. You'd have to be a notable somebody. You can't just be somebody who wants to live here next to these celebrities and like politicians and doctors, right? You would have to be somebody. So that's basically what an A tier or A class mall means, right? And again, it's a money game, so you'd have to have the money to, if you want to be next to Louis Vuitton flagship store, right? For example, or Gucci, you're gonna more than likely have to have money that kind of matches, you know, because you got to be aware that these brands also don't want a store next to them that's selling thumbtacks, you know. I'm not trying to pick on that. I'm just saying, like, you could have a successful thumbtack business, but for example, you know, they probably want somebody with a big name beside them, like Prada or Michael Kors, something of that nature, right? Or a big brand name next to them. So that's what an A class. That just means they're selective, right? So like a B class is like obviously like it's more affordable. There's other brands mixed in there with the high class brands, with the elite brands, right? Then C class is like more of a startup mall, you know, like it's just getting up and running, or there's still like openings in the mall. It's more like locally owned, things like that, right? There's not as many franchises. There might be like one big staple store in there, like a Kroger or a Walmart, and then maybe a Prada store, Louis Vuitton store, McDonald's, you know, and then the rest are just regular stores. So that's what like a C class or C tier business, mall is. So for example, like I said, when I had my clothing store, I went to malls. I wasn't on the level yet where I could look at an A tier mall, and I wouldn't want to do that because it would be great for business because you'd be getting business from other stores, and they would just come. If you have the money for it, you could do it. It's not a problem, right? But my whole business, like I said, I have different avenues and portfolios, business, investments, and companies, and I own multiple companies, so I wouldn't necessarily put all my eggs in one basket by pitching my clothing brand next to Louis, Gucci, Prada, Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, Vera Wang. You know, it's not Paris Fashion Week for me. I'm dressed stylish and I like to look good, and I like that I could own a clothing store and that I'm creative and I'm into fashion. But at the same time, it's not that interesting to me to that point, right? Like maybe if I get some team members or people who are interested in running with this brand and doing those things, they might be able to, and they might want to compete, not compete, but be next to Gucci and Louis Vuitton and Prada. But for me, it's not that big. I'm not that much of a fashion enthusiast where that is important to me. So to me, it's more so just to like, you know, just have like a gallery where people could look at my clothing, you know, and in person, just come in person and buy stuff that they want to, right? Or just be like a local brand. I'm not so much focused on being like this global Paris Fashion Week on the runway brand, right? That's not really my goal. Mine's more so like just everyday people just buying clothes that they like and see and feel comfy in, right? That's kind of the goal, and it's not my main business. It's not my main goal in life to have like this super successful fashion brand. I'm kind of okay with just going to like local events, you know, having a store where I get foot traffic and people coming to the store and shopping, like a brick and mortar store front where you can come in and buy stuff. Mine's is more so that I get to go to these events, especially when I was like in my 20s and I was younger. It makes sense that like, you know, I get to go socialize with people and like see events in the city, and I kind of get to go to the event and enjoy the event. So for example, like a concert or something, I get to go enjoy the music or the festivities, but at the same time I'm making money because I'm selling my products, right? I'm selling my t-shirts, I'm selling my caps, I'm selling my bags, and I get to make people aware of my brand. And there might be celebrities there who be like, oh my god, that's so cool, I like that, da 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 da. So I get to network with people, and then maybe get a sponsorship or like ambassador endorsement, you know, where I could give them some free hats and caps and bags and shirts and shoes. For example, like the sneaker con events, where the sneaker expos, you know, things of that nature, right? And do certain things like that where I think it's cool and I enjoy being here, because I would pay for a ticket to come here and browse this stuff anyway and walk around with my friends and take pictures and be like, oh look, this is cool, you know. So in addition to that, I get to be there and be like, wow, this is cool, I enjoy this, but also I'm making money, and my brand is now one of the brands that's amongst these expos and events and, you know, stuff like that. And the celebrities get to see it, or the people, and then they may want to, you know, support my brand and put it on and show social media, or wear it on a music video, or wear it in a movie, whatever they do, right? That's another thing. So like networking and stuff, it's a great tool for networking, and speaking to people from different places internationally, again, all over the world, because now, you know, you have social media and stuff like that, where you could share your creativity and your art or your product all over the world just at the hit of a button, right? You can take a picture of your clothes and be like, boom, you know, it's all over the world. Like celebrities are looking at it, athletes are looking at it, politicians, rich people, poor people, homeless people, you know, people in high places, people in low places, everybody could see your clothes, you know. And the other thing, I like the diversity about clothing companies, because not only do I get to be creative and make things that I find cool, and especially in your 20s when you're growing and you're creative, you know, your creative juices are flowing, it gives you an outlet to create things that you think are cool, and then other people find it cool too, right? But the other thing is, so it gives you different avenues, right? For example, like I mentioned earlier, uniforms, right? Uniforms for companies, uniforms for schools, uniforms for workplaces, things of that nature, for events like family get-togethers, family barbecues, cookouts, reunions, high school reunions, you know, for your office place, for your office party. You know, people need clothes for different reasons. So for example, if there's a cleaning company who's like, hey, listen brother, I need 10 jumpers for my employees this size, like I need one small, 2 larges, 3 extra larges, 4 mediums, and I need a company uniform. You know, I want you to design me a company uniform. It has to say this on it. And, you know, I need a cap, I need a jumpsuit, you know, like a moving company. So they need something breathable. They're like, hey, I need a polo shirt that says, for example, you know, Dylan's Moving Company. And then I need a hat with like a little moving truck emblem, what's that, embossment on it, right? Or like whatever, right? And that's my uniform for my company, right? Things like that. And then like, let's say a family barbecue or family reunion where it's like the Johnson's 10th reunion, you know, written on it, and then everybody at the park or at the backyard has this shirt on, so you know who all your family members are, right? There's no random people just walking into the park and be like, hey, can I get some food? It's not like that, because all your family members are wearing the same shirt that says, because you personally ordered a week before the meetup, before the cookout, before the reunion, you guys ordered your shirt, 100 shirts, you know, and you send them to the appropriate people, and or you held them, and when everybody came, you gave it to them one by one, and you gave out all the shirts. So everybody who's here, they have a shirt on, you know, and you're able to identify your family members rather than just random people walking around, right? So there's all these things going on. That's what I like about a clothing company, is the diversity in the services that you could provide. So you can make uniforms, you could make get-together clothing, you know, for a special event, even for anniversaries, you know. So like, you want a matching shirt with your girlfriend that says, I love you, whoever, you know, and then she or he is wearing the same thing that says, I love you, and then your name. So for a special event, you know, something like that. Or your, what is that called? Bridal shower, bachelor party, for baby showers, for other things, right? So family events like that. What else is there? school events. So it's like da 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 school, right, on the shirts. Let's say sporting events, right? So let's say a sports team at like your local high school, and you wanted to say the whatever, Henry Hill High School. Oh, sorry, the Henry High School Lions, right? Varsity team, whatever, da 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 da. So you put that on the thing, and then basically, yeah, you have that. The You got like the sports team, or like your workplace. Let's say again, not the uniform, but like you're having a little event. So yeah, I think you get the example. And pretty much that's the diversity that I enjoy in a clothing company, that you could make your own. So you could design something cool, like you could have an image in your mind, like let's say the picture behind me, for example, right? That right there, if I want to put that on a t-shirt, and I think it's very cool, so I sell that to people, right? So that's one example. Or I write something cool on a hat, like ABC in little letters, and then I think that's cool, and I sell that. But also now I have the option of creating uniforms. I have the option of doing other events, like I mentioned, right? And that's the diversity in it. That's what makes it fun and exciting to do. And there's also other things like screen printing, embroidery, direct to garment printing, print onto garment, which is actually a direct printing to garment, embroidery, screen printing. There's a lot of other stuff. So there's different ways of doing these things, right? And that's why I don't want this video to be all over the place, but I'm just giving what I have experience with. These are just things I have experience with. And these are very fun things because I started them in my teen years. I did them in my early 20s, so before I was 25 years old, so like between 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And that's a period of time where you're growing and you're experimenting, you're learning. So it was very fun for me. And it was also successful. Not only was it fun, it was successful. It was a great networking opportunity. I got to meet a lot of great people, a lot of influential people, a lot of important people. And it made my network grow. It gave me something to do, stay busy with, and just learn things as I'm going, right? So, and it also gave me some mentors as well, as I mentioned. And these were all fun things for me to do, profitable things, and gave me the ability to create things, use imagination and creativity while learning like business management, learning practical and realistic things like business management, business accounts, banking, accounting, taxes, business registration, branding, advertising, store, how to get a store, different things like that. So if you want to say, it made me like crazy with knowledge, crazy knowledgeable, crazy rich, it made me a rich young man in his 20s with an international business. That's very impressive, right? So I guess I could pop my collar on that one, right? Just stunt on him a little bit, 20-year-old child that's under 25 years old in his teens, with a couple of bags of money, right? So that's very impressive. Also, the name of my clothing brand was Express Lane Clothing, and the reason I named it Express Lane Clothing is that I noticed that if you go to the grocery store and you go to self checkout and you get to just move at your own pace, or if you go to like the aisle with 1 to 16 items, which is the express lane for the grocery store, which means that you see the other lineups in the grocery store where people are pushing their cart and there's like 30 people just wrapped around the aisles, right? Whereas the express lane, the 1 to 16 items, you gotta have 1 to 16 items. You gotta have less items, but you benefit from having less items because you go there and you get to leave the store quicker. Or if you go to like a place like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, they give you champagne, they treat you, good. There's chairs to sit in. That's kind of like the express lane of living, So if you're on the highway, the HOV lane or the paid toll lane, the carpool lane, they're flying past everybody, right? While everybody else is in bumper to bumper gridlock traffic, the express lane, the paid lane, the carpool lane is flying, right? They're going places. So that was kind of the concept behind express lane clothing, and it also meant to express yourself. So express yourself and create your own lane. So like express yourself, express how you're feeling. You know, that's the thing behind creativity and creating your own clothing, you know, being a young person, doing what you want to do and creating your own lane. That means like, you know, doing what you do and just getting places, going places, right? That's what that meant. Yeah. So I like the fact that these companies were international. They gave me the opportunity to do things that were beyond my comprehension, beyond my skill level, and it forced me to level up and kind of like do more reading, research. It forced me to take courses um, through universities and colleges, learn customer service, you know, work in different places and upgrade my knowledge. So, for example, like working in the mall, working in UPS, um, I did all these things just so I could learn about my, you know, the companies that I wanted to own. And that's another good thing about these things, right? Is the knowledge you acquire, the network you acquire, the mentors you acquire, the relationships you acquire, and you know everything that you acquire from that. It's not just about the money. You want to learn these things because it makes you a better person. It makes you a more knowledgeable business owner and a more a brand with longevity and a long-lasting brand, not just, you know, like a fly-by-night. Like you existed and now you don't. Like my clothing line is still there. Um, like I mentioned, the Amazon, it was more so like an inventory-based thing, but I could always go back to Amazon now because I have knowledge, or use other platforms. Um, and these type of things, they're important, you know, because throughout your life you're going to be doing things continuously, right? You might want to rebrand yourself, open up another business, open up more business, to diversify your portfolio, get into different things, and that's where this helps, especially in your 20s or your teens when you're learning. So in your 30s, 40s, 50s, as you grow, you want to build what is it called, this is so not only do you want to diversify your income and have different streams of income, but you also want to have residual income. That means income. So for example, let's say if you act in a movie, a Disney movie, right? So you get royalties from this movie for as long as this movie exists. So for your entire life, you'll get royalties. If you make a song and it's featured in a video game or a movie, you'll continue to receive royalties. You know, if something happens to you, your family continues to receive the royalties and things like that. Is called residual income. That means that you continue to get income, or not residual. Residual is like you get a dripping of income from different places, or like a reoccurring income from a one-time investment, right? So there's different ways of getting income, like I said. So like a real estate investment would give you a cash flow. So like a cash flow income, for example, that means you've rented out your place for 12 months, and for those 12 months you're going to collect income continuously each month, right? And if you sell your property, then you're going to get a sum of money at one time because you've let go of the property in exchange for bringing in income, right? So for example, if I were to sell this notepad, let's say this was a parking spot, right? And it's $30,000 for this parking spot, and I'm like, here's a parking spot, and you give me $30,000, and I take the $30,000. That's a one-time sale, right? Whereas if you rent this parking lot to somebody for $300 a month, you're gonna receive $3,600 at the end of that year, because 300 times 12 is 3,600. Things like that. So as I mentioned, there's different ways of getting income, different forms of income, different payouts, different ways. You know, you just gotta learn about these things. The possibilities are endless. You know, that's all it is. You know, there's plenty of ways to become crazy rich. You know, like if you're watching the movie Crazy Rich Asians, and they're rich beyond belief. You know, or like the billionaires of the world, like in Dubai, or like the Asians who buy condos by the dozen, you know, by the hundreds. So if you notice, like real estate in Detroit, when Detroit was going through whatever that situation was, where the plants closed down and, you know, everybody took off from the city, which is called flight, and it was very dilapidated, and there was poverty, there was no employment. Even the police forces were shutting down and stuff like that due to lack of funding. It was very bad. But if you looked at it from a perspective of real estate, the real estate was very low, so people were buying something called parcels of real estate, you know, like land parcels and other stuff, packages, right? So it'd be like 10 houses on one block, and they'll just buy the entire neighborhood, you know, like for 300,000, because each house would be $30,000 or $3,000. So even for 30,000, you could buy 10 houses, right? So if you look at it from that point of view, so these foreign investors, what they were doing was they were coming and just grabbing up entire land, right? Entire neighborhoods and entire apartment buildings, plazas, malls, like other buildings, hospitals, houses, this, that, and the third, whole townhouse complexes, whole apartment buildings, apartment complexes, like a series of apartments, 4 or 5 apartments. And they were buying these things, and then they held them or they fixed them up, right? And then they gave them out to tenants, or as a current date, so these buildings that were $3,000 are now going for $300,000 each, because Detroit's economy and Detroit's employment sector and stuff, employment have returned to normal. So now it's a bustling city again. So like people have returned to downtown. Investors have put in money into the city. Now there's the politicians and the emergency services. It's safe to live there now. You know, it's not the murder capital of the world. It's not the murder capital of America. So now it's a normal city again. And what was going for $3,000 a house is now $300,000 a house. So somebody who bought 10 houses for $3,000 each at $30,000 is selling each house for $300,000. You know, so that is what, almost 3.5 billion back from $30,000. So you got to think about it, right? Crazy, right? It's crazy because you know why? When people were like, "Oh, that's a crazy idea," because why? The city is so dangerous. Everybody's left. You'd be insane to go in there, right? And then these investors, they don't look at it like that because they're not even going to the city to buy anything. They're not physically going there. So these foreign investors, they're not flying on a plane or taking a train to Detroit and then getting to Detroit and then walking around and inspecting the property they buy. They just go online to these auction sites, or they use a realtor. That's the thing about it, right? That's the thing. Like I said, it's a money game. You have to have money to play the money game and exist in life, you know? So a lot of people would not understand that because they don't even have enough money to learn how to invest money or think about how to deal with their money or wealth management, right? Plus they're very upset that other people do have the money to do it, so they'd rather be ignorant and not learn. They'd rather just sit there, you know, and be complacent, and that means just sit still and, you know, wither away. So for example, back to what I was saying, so the person who has money, they would call their realtor, or they would call or they'll go online on the auction sites and they'll just buy it without ever seeing in person the property, without ever setting foot in the city. And that's what a foreign investor means, you know. So they would basically acquire these land parcels or these packages of real estate and just buy everything, and then just, you know, either renovate and flip them or find a tenant. By flip I mean sell them, or they would find a long-term tenant, so they have a cash flow income, like I mentioned, monthly income. But then there's also things like being a property manager, a landlord, and other things, right? So like if something breaks, you gotta fix it, you know, things like that. You gotta help them do things, and you gotta have insurance, right? Insurance on your building, whatever, in case there's fires, floods, things like that. But also, so next, the other thing about that is that so now when you buy these properties, so for example, 3,000, right? There might be a tax on it that was unpaid, so you might have like 30,000 in taxes. So there's other expenses there. So to somebody who can't see that vision, you know, so let's say somebody who's struggling to buy a noodle pack right now because they work a job and it doesn't pay enough, and they have, you know, they didn't plan for their children, so they have like 10 children running around. They work a single income job, an entry level job, no college education, and they're only making like 30,000 a year at 50 years old with 10 children running around, you know, young children, not adult children, not children that have moved out, but 10 children because they can't control themselves. They you know, they have a hard time, you know, because if they were busy doing things, they wouldn't be making children at an alarming rate and not being able to take care of their children, which is the unfortunate and disappointing part. But you can't really look into that, right? That's not your business to do. But there's people like that who would look at this situation and be like, wow, that's crazy. Why? Because One, they've never, they're spectators. So it's like watching the news and being like, oh, look, the president, he's crazy because he's not saying that abortion's good, right? For example. So you're gonna have these type of people who are always spectators. They're very speculative. You know, they're skeptics. Skepticism. That means that they're like, nah, no way. That sounds like a scam to me. Oh, put $5 into real estate and I get $10 back if I fix the house and sell it, or if I find a tenant and get $1 back each month. So to them, it's crazy because money is a concept to them that they've never heard of because they don't have money to begin with. They work a simple job, they work very hard, and it's not enough to pay the bills. So they're like, I work all day and I don't make enough money to even brush my teeth in the morning, which is nothing. Money doesn't have nothing to do with brushing your teeth, but that's the type of crazy excuse they'll come up with. So there's different kinds of crazy. There's like the crazy person who goes to Detroit during it being the murder capital of the world and it being dilapidated, and even the mayor leaving the city. So everybody's gonna be like, you're crazy, you're putting your money over there, you're crazy. Well, it's my money to do what I want with it. So guess what? If I go buy 100 houses here for $3,000 each and spend $300,000, and now each house is worth $300,000, I'm making back like $3 billion, and that's a crazy amount of money, $3 billion. So that would make me a billionaire technically, right? So that right there is a crazy investment, a crazy opportunity that you have to be crazy enough to invest in and make some money back, right? Make some of this moolah, the dineros, the dollars, the pesos, the yens, the euros, some of these, the Swiss francs, the buckaroos, the things that you need to make life continue lifing, So that's one thing. Then there's a person who's crazy who, they just don't know what's going on in the world, and they're just watching the news all day after work and kicking up their feet, drinking a beer, and not being able to afford their 10 kids. That's a different type of crazy. So there's two different types of crazy. There's crazy rich people, then there's crazy people who can't afford to pay for the diapers for their kids, so their kids are running around pooping on the floor while they're drinking a beer after work. So that's to address that. So yeah, like I said, there's investment opportunities everywhere. Try to read. The most important thing is reading, right? Try to take a college course. Educate yourself, right? You don't have to be educated by anybody else. Just educate yourself. Pick up some books. Take a webinar. Attend some free college courses. Go online, do some research, watch some YouTube videos at the minimum. Do something like that, right? Use your time instead of kicking back after work and chugging down a beer and waiting for your wife to fix you a meal and watching your 10 kids run around smelling, because you can't afford diapers. Instead of doing that, invest in yourself a little bit, At least take a course on like hygiene, grooming, at least do something like that, right? Read at a college level of English. Be able to do some basic math, 2 plus 2, 6 plus 6, 7 plus 1, 10 times 10, things like that. Just learn basic, simple things, and it'll take you a long way in life. You'll be surprised at how far it could take you. Even if you work a dead-end job and live paycheck to paycheck, figure out how you could become the manager or the supervisor there instead of just sitting there and being complacent and crying all day. Figure out how you could upgrade your skills, or show people that you're willing to work hard and become the manager or the supervisor, so at least your little pay rate of like $30,000 a year jumps to like $50,000 a year, and maybe you could afford diapers for the next set of kids that you pop out after drinking beer. So not to pick on anybody or make things rough for anybody or be rude, but this is reality. You want to live a good life. You don't want to live a hard life just drinking beer and becoming an alcoholic just because you can't pay the bills. That's not something you want to do. So that's all I really have to say. I'll try to come out with another video that, I'm hoping I get some feedback and people tell me what they want to hear or what they want to get like more videos on. So that way I know like what exactly people want to hear, right? Rather than me just speaking about my experiences and hoping somebody gets something from it. Maybe somebody will tell me what they specifically want to hear, and then I'll be able to make not a custom video, like a video tailored to that, right? Like maybe somebody wants to know how to do screen printing for clothes or embroidery, they're like, hey, how do I get a shirt that's embroidered, for my company? Or how do I get like a company uniform? Or how do I start a moving company? How do I start a clothing company? How do I start a real estate firm, a law firm, or whatever, business consulting, things like that, or even like, how do I find a mentor? Like, who's a good mentor for me? You know, like what college courses should I take? Is there any free information? You know, like I said, I'm gonna make a checklist out of this and upload it for a downloadable free checklist, right, on my social media or something, right?